If you like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm talking to Shane O'Rourke. Shane served with was it the RMPs you served with?
I was, yeah.
Right, okay. So I did find that bit about you. If you'd like to just go over the story of your time growing up, joining the military, what it was like, why did you leave, and what have you done since? So if you just want to start off with like where you grew up and why you joined.
Yeah, sort of grew up everywhere, really. My dad was in the forces. Granddad was a commander in the Second World War, and I thoroughly enjoyed the youth side of life growing up in the military. You know, it's pretty exciting. It's a nice place to grow up. Yeah, really enjoyed it. And then, okay, I suppose it came to that time at sort of 17, what I'm going to do in my life. And yeah, look, I ended up going to the careers office, dressed in a suit, smart suit, shirt and tie, shoes polished, and it was, we've got a job for you. We know where you're going to send you. So I literally did the bar test. And it was like, you're going to join the RMP, and I was like, right, okay. Didn't really have a clue. I watched a couple of nice content videos, specifically around close protection and stuff. And I said, actually, that looks like an interesting gig. And look, apart from that, my youth, I literally grew up in Germany, a little bit in the UK, but predominantly in Northern Ireland as well. And that's where my family still live.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, so growing up in the military, you'd have been used to that environment anyway, so you kind of expected what it was going to be like to join up and all that. But I mean, you walked in with a suit and they must have thought, fucking hell, get in. We're not fit this lad, you know. I think I'd end up in fucking t-shirt and jeans and stuff like most people. I mean, I joined in '85, so it was probably a bit different to the process. You know, and the process is the same. It's not now. I mean, it's very different now. All I hear is complaints about people who were trying to join and stuff like that. But that's another story for another podcast type of thing. So did they just offer you the RMPs, or did you have an inkling that you wanted to do that?
Look, it was literally suit, shirt and tie. And the guy just said, listen, I think you're more suited to this. Not on my ability to talk or walk or educational background. It was like, you look like this, so this is where we're going to send you. And I think, about 7 weeks later, that was me, basic training, and off I went.
So, I mean, that's quick, that as well, that's 7 weeks.
It was really quick. Look, I'm really conscious that, like, nowadays, or even maybe a few years in, I knew guys and girls who spent 18 months waiting. But I think at that time, there was just like an open parchment, and it was like, you know, we've got X amount of places, so I was really lucky. I wanted to join a lot younger, and I wanted to go. Well, at the time, I wanted to go Power Edge, and I was, you know, very young, very fit lad, rugby player. But my dad was like, well, "I'm not signing you off." And obviously, I had an adult to sign me off until I was 18. So I literally waited until my 18th birthday, and then I was able to sign myself in. Yeah.
So that would have been training down at Chichester, was it?
Winchester was, the basic, and then on to Chichester, and then because really, like I've spent majority of my career doing little to no policing. It was all instructional, all across the military really, and the RMP at the time. So I was very fortunate. But yeah,
I only mentioned Chichester there because in my history, I was at Thorney Island.
Just on the road. Yeah.
And when the guys who were in the shit at Chichester, instead of getting jailed in their own guard room, they just get sent to ours. So we'd be like, fucking great. I spent
I think it was 2 days. Spent 2 days down there. Failing to parade one day, young lad, too many beers. It was like, leave this lady or stay with her and take the consequences. And I took the consequences. And it was a good intro to army life. It was decent.
Yeah, we used to like getting them in. Like, all right, we've got another one. Fucking beasted in that. You know, wouldn't get away with it nowadays. Not allowed to.
No.
So how did you find training when you turned up at Winchester then?
I found it. I think back then, I found it really easy because do you know what? If you just keep yourself clean, smart, do as you're told, and run about, then and you're fit. It's a pretty easy life, isn't it? And I remember a guy, and I used to say this as an instructor, phase 1, 2, and 3, and I used to say to the lads and lasses, "Look, this isn't the real army. The
Yeah,
army's nothing like this. You just need to get through this and the next stage to be in a real army. And in the real army, yes, you're going to have maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks a cursory inspection around your room. If you're lucky enough to be in a single man room, but you're going to be on the pot, you're going to be playing sport, you have early finishes on the Wednesday and Friday, and that's the real army. Just
yeah.
get through there first of all. And I took that advice and found it easy. But
I mean, it was different for me. I mean, I joined junior leaders, so we had a whole year of it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Going to turning up at your unit, very, very different to training. You know,
yeah, yeah,
I was like a scared rabbit. You know,
yeah,
come out of training. I went off to, well, actually, went to Winchester to do the all arms clerks course because I thought, yeah, easy job. It's going to be
yeah,
great. As soon as I was shit out and got sacked and sent to the guns, which was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
yeah.
So I loved that. So which was your first unit then?
I went
In
to
fact, before we go into that, can we go back to phase 2? Because I've never understood what you get taught there. You know, at
oh,
Chichester.
look, it was a sort of basic syllabus, really, of the very basic policing, obviously driving, pistol work. It was like the low caliber entry of what you're going to need to do, and your progressive training really will happen when you get to unit.
Yeah,
So it was easy. It was easy going, really
yeah.
was. And I was very lucky. I actually fast tracked through parts of training because I played rugby. So it was like you can't physically play until you've passed out. So like you'll miss this bit of training, and yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I made sure as an instructor that the people under me, I tried to make it a bit enjoyable for them because it was sort of ludicrous to me that we'd lose good people because I don't know we spoke or operated in a way which just turned them completely off the forces. So,
Hmm.
and don't get me wrong, I was never a pushover, far from it. But even back then, I sort of thought about the inclusive training and actually how do we retain as many people as we can? Because actually, once you're in, we've got you for 4 years then.
Yeah,
So within that training cycle, and it's like actually we can retain them. They might hate it here, but when they get to the first unit and they start meeting, greeting, having a few beers in the mess, and downtown and playing sport, they'll start to love service life. And even if it's not with us, that maybe they'll go somewhere else. But I'd rather have
yeah.
that than somebody leaving after 4 weeks and going home and not really experiencing
Did you get a
forces
lot of
life.
that where people were dropping out and all want
Yeah,
to
and
transfer?
I couldn't quite understand really. It was I don't know. Look, today's generation wouldn't have coped back then at all. But even back then, I suppose there was odds and sods who just couldn't grasp discipline, couldn't grasp um, training hard, living outdoors, cold, wet conditions, and they couldn't get away from that mindset of it's always going to be like this. This
Yeah.
is all of it, and yeah, and we probably lost. I want to say about 65% of my
Wow.
intake, just because they just. And you know what? Actually, I think it was quite difficult back then. I know the instructors, obviously under a different. I remember a guy turning up. He probably could have been a future young RSM. He turned up with a Walt Disney tie on, and the instructor said, "Get back on the bus. That's your career over." So he went to Worthy Down to train as a clerk, because he said, "That's not the standards we expect here." And I was just like, and I laughed at the time, but now I think, wow, that guy could have been super talented guy, but
Yeah, yeah. I
but
mean,
but
you
but
don't.
but,
Fucking
but the
hell.
old school instructors are old school instructors.
And I suppose in the trade that you were doing, I wouldn't say you've got to class yourself as higher, a higher level, but in reality, you've got to, you have really, you've got to be a bit. Because
You know,
I
got to,
don't know how to explain it. I'm probably talking in
yeah,
circles there.
you sort of got to be beyond reproach. So you've got to act, even when you're downtown, whatever. You've got to do it in a manner which befits the role that you do.
Yeah,
Uh, sorry, I need to plug my phone in. You know, you've got to act appropriately.
yeah,
And look, we've all fallen foul of it many times. And there probably was an era, I want to say, between 93 and about 96, 97, where, you know, we were out drinking, fighting, doing everything. And then suddenly, I can't remember the change, but it's probably about 97 where we just became a little bit more professional, and it was frowned upon, and your career was severely damaged if you went off the rails. So we all, and I can't remember why it happened, or you know, there was no like service report came in, but it's like overnight everyone became a little bit more professional.
I think that was the same throughout the army, though. I think they were trying to stamp out the, let's say, drinking culture to
Yeah.
give it a name.
Do you know, I remember. Do you know, I remember in training. I obviously won't mention his name. There was a lad in with me in like a 12-man room. There's three of us out of 12 people left, and I remember he's crying one night. I said, "You're right." And he said, "Oh, I'm in the shit. It was crying at passion." And I thought, "Oh, maybe this guy slept on his wife or something like that, you know." And I thought, "Okay, this is in training." And then I remember the instructors. We had to line the sort of road leading up to gate and sort of clapping, going out of camp. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay. And then it turned out he was gay, and that was it. And
yeah,
I was thinking, wow, this is how we treat. Even back then, I was thinking, wow, this is a pretty harsh environment.
yeah. I mean, it was weird. You know, I mean, it was against military law to be
Yeah.
homosexual. But we all knew guys who.
So I just need to plug
Wait,
this charger in 1 second.
yeah, yeah, no bother.
Or just make sure it's not going to fall off as it's plugged in. 1 second. I don't think I can balance it without it. It's going to end in tears. I can't do it. Landscape, but it's not going to happen either, is it? 1 second. Look, there we go. I'll hold it. So yeah, it was just. I just remember back then, and I hadn't had any exposure to it, but I just remember thinking, "This is
It's right.
this is
Yeah,
harsh." Yeah, yeah. Even back then, I
but
thought this is harsh. Yeah,
it was normal. You know, that's what we were
yeah, yeah.
expecting. That's what we were told. That's what we expected. That's all we knew. It wasn't.
But,
It was like
look,
later on when it became, you know, right. The change. What was it? Yeah,
yeah.
2000s, the 199, 2000s around that. They changed it, or a bit later. I can't actually remember. I've been out for quite a while now. I remember one of the lads like coming out. He basically saying, "Right, lads, I've got something to tell you. You know, I'm gay," and we're all like, "Yeah, fucking no,
Yeah, yeah.
no one's bothered." You know, know what I mean, type of thing. And it was,
But then, you know, when I look back, I thought, "Oh, this guy could have been a great asset to the military." Even back then, I was thinking that.
yeah,
But look, that's the way it was, and you know,
yeah, it was the way it was,
yeah.
and you know, I'm glad it's changed. Um, it was just, yeah, to say that it was a different world and a different life is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
It really was a different mentality, you know, and I am glad it's changed because there's some fantastic people out there. The sexual orientation makes no difference whatsoever. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, that's not being woke. That's just being
Oh,
sensible.
look, there was an element of everything back there, wasn't it? Those things, huge element of, and I don't know whether this is perhaps because I'm older now. So 49 next Friday, I'm older now. So perhaps I think about things or reconnect with the past in a different way.
Mm.
But even, you know, whether it was gay, whether it was, you know, racism, whatever, it definitely was accepted as part of normal military life.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and thank God it all changed. But yeah, it was accepted. Um, Depending on your culture or skin color or whatever, and it was normalised, wasn't it? It was normalised.
yeah. I mean, you know, I'd say I did 27 years, and I didn't think or I don't think I experienced any like out and out racism.
Uh,
But to be honest, there was plenty of casual racism. You
yeah,
know, not just from whites to blacks. It was the other way around as well.
Yeah.
That seemed a bit more. You wouldn't expect it, but there
Yeah.
definitely was. I could tell stories that aren't suited for a podcast about
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I won't. Don't incriminate myself any more than I just have.
Yeah.
So, right, your first unit then. You got there, turned up there. What was that like?
Okay, it was all right. It was a baptism by fire. We were. I look at where the cat badge was then compared to now in terms of its professionalism, and its detail. Now it's a working mainstream police force, but back then there's still a bit of judges' rules going on. It was not much policing, and it was more look, sky to survive, on exercise all the time. Just having really good, just having a great time, lots of sport, and then obviously I went on the first tour 18 to Bosnia at the time, and that was a real eye opener because I was embedded with B Company 2LI,
Right.
so spent my time with them, and obviously it's I sort of think genuinely, if I, because of the sights, the sounds, and the sort of traumas back then around ethnic cleansing and mass rape and etc. And I sort of think I always say that when people ask me about tours, and most people in the civilian world don't really connect or understand or even remember Bosnia
No.
in the early days, and I always say it was without doubt the worst thing I've ever experienced, and it's only because I was young and wasn't of an age where I was married or had kids of my own that it never deeply resonated or affected me. But it affected a lot of people who were in their 20s with kids and stuff, and it had a real traumatic effect on them. It was the worst, by far the worst thing I've experienced, to be fair.
It's the only one. It's the only tour that at the time. I mean, I didn't got there till '95. But I said to the wife at the time that if I get a chance, I want to volunteer to go out there because you'd see it all in the news and stuff like that. And it was horrific, and there was shit going on that shouldn't have been going on in modern day, Europe, let's say. And you're right, people have forgot about it, and it really grips my shit. It really does. I talk about it sometimes at work, and the young lads don't even know where it was.
No, and I think even about the sort of professionals in the army at the time, because we're embedded with infantry. You get that close camaraderie, and you're on patrolling every day, etc. I've still got some really good mates from there now. But then I used to remember once a month we'd have to go down to Split, and then you saw how the other half lived in hot showers every day, pizza, swimming pool. And I remember getting ragged. I was a young lad, Jack, and getting absolutely ragged because I hadn't shaved or my uniform stank. And I was thinking, I haven't washed this in 5 weeks. I haven't had a shower in 5 weeks. I've had literally a little bit of a hose with like a shower head on the end, which was 2 foot off the floor, and you could just about put your head under it, And I just think what we witnessed and people had to endure, cross with even the basic conditions. Just a horrible condition to live in, and ill prepared in terms of what the military uniforms were like there and stuff.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's just like it's a real sort of widening experience to me of wow, this is the real world. It was no longer just going for your tea and toast and an affy and playing rugby and stuff. It was like, oh God, this exists in the world, and this is how people live, and how I'm going to have to live for the next 6 months or so. It was harrowing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was especially in the early '90s, it was a rough time for everyone who was there. And I mean, you're right about the ill-prepared equipment. We went out. We ended up on Mount Igman, just outside of Sarajevo, and the weather was closing in, and it was fucking cold. And we didn't have any cold weather gear. We didn't. We had combat. Well, we had the starts of Combat 95, so it was like halfway between Combat 95 and the Jungleys. It was shit. It was falling apart. And it wasn't until 3/4 of the way through the tour that we actually got Matterhorn's shoot.
I mean, to think back then,
crazy.
Most of us were buying our own kit.
Yeah.
To go on tour. which
You
probably
had to,
still
didn't you?
happened for another 10 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
I'd like to say it's changed now, but I bet it's still, I mean, I don't really know anyone who's serving now to ask them.
Yeah.
But I hope that the equipment they get is a lot better. And
Yeah,
it's I suppose they can. Smaller army, they've got more budget to spend on it,
yeah.
but you never
So,
know.
so yeah, do you know what? For me, it was the first time I'd witnessed clearly. I was 18 to witness atrocities,
Yeah,
but to witness the degradation of life, to see children so um, like destitute and
mm.
families destitute, and I'd never witnessed that from my rural community growing up. So to see real destitution brought on by conflict was, something you never forget. It was, yeah,
I mean, the abiding thing with me that sticks in my mind and always will forever is sometimes it's not what you see, it's the aftermath that you see.
yeah,
You know what happened. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
You don't actually have. Sometimes you don't have to actually see the trauma happen,
yeah.
but you know it. You know
I,
what
I
happened.
remember, I remember patrolling through, uh, patrolling through a village, and there was a young rifle sergeant, and we went into this house, and I remember there's like a young child's bed, duvet pulled over, still a set of slippers on the floor, or set of shoes rather on the floor next to the bed, and that was it. And then you sort of think, these people left in a hurry, wonder where they are now, etc., etc. And you're right, it's not always the trauma; it's the sort of how your mind plays tricks, asking questions
Yeah,
about what's happened or hasn't happened, and
yeah. No, it's
yeah,
yeah. That's what's happened to me. As we discussed before, this where
yeah,
on my journey at the moment, that's basically part of that as well. It, your mind's fucking a weird thing.
yeah,
It
yeah,
just does things, and you have to try and combat it. And yeah, it's a strange beast itself.
yeah.
So after Bosnia, what was that? What was after that then?
Look, just various tours. So I very quickly, unfortunately, became, did all my instructional qualifications from, obviously, all arms skill at arms, PTI, NBC. I did all my instructional qualifications and spent a lot of time, lot of time as instructor. Obviously, went Northern. I was a Conco in Coal Island for just shy of 3 years. So,
Wow.
which is a rough one. So yeah, every 6 months, um,
Yeah,
split up into 2 or 3 platoons. But every 6 months, a cat badge would come in, go through there. I'd go out, as the SME on the ground,
yeah,
introduce the local population and how to get around, and then they'd go, and I go, right, another 6 months. With a sort of 4 to 6 week lock in, where we were locked in, every tenure. But look, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I got to learn a lot back then about patrolling skills from the infantry, artillery, etc. And I learned a lot about military skills, which I wouldn't have got outside of that. And it honed in everything from navigation, comm skills, and stuff like that. So it was a great 3 years for me. Really good 3 years. Yeah.
I mean, the only experience I had of the Concours was Besbrook, and the two guys there had the best room. They knew where to get all the poutine from. So
Yeah,
the SIG store was like next door, so
yeah,
there's where was this, and they liked batteries as well. So
yeah. I had
I was throwing them extra ones.
I had a good couple of IUC mates. So they'd like once a month they say, right, listen, we need to do some intelligence op. They come to the police station, we'll stay the night. And I go, right, okay. And then we change the civvies and we go out to Bangor or something like that for a night out in the boom rooms of Bangor, get absolutely leathered and come back the next day, none the wiser. I think everyone knew where I'd gone, but they were just like, whatever, this guy's been here, 2 years at a time, who cares? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fucking they're going to stare crazy.
Yeah. Do you know, I remember at one time, it was like the funniest thing ever. I think the RWF had come in at the time. Obviously, they've amalgamated after that, but they came in and there was me and the other Conco, and we'd been sat there for 2 weeks by ourselves in Coal Island, obviously on the roundabout, and literally forgotten about. And somebody came in to do a mail run or look at the comm set. They're like, "Where's the call sign?" Like, no, it's just us. We've been sat here for, I think, the best part of 12 days at the time. They're like, right, okay. So we were staggered on 12 hours off, 12 hours on the Sangha, just at every VRM play. And I was like, surely somebody must realise from my voice it's the same guy every night for 12 days. But yeah, it was what it was. But yeah, I looked at a thoroughly good time there. It was, yeah, it was a good learning curve for me. It was good.
Wow, I mean, just to forget being forgotten about like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus. So after Ireland?
Oh, look, from there, I don't know. I think I went to. I was lucky. I went to Holland to naval base in Brunson
Right.
for a couple of years, and then to Cyprus, and then it was like after that it was just instructional posts across Germany and the UK, obviously Thetford for pre-ops, and then and also the close protection unit then, and so there was no like defining moments. It literally just was phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, instructional, and obviously close protection and team leader and instructor at Longmore. So, but again, just a thoroughly good time. I don't think I sort of had a posting where I thought, oh, this is crap. I'm not enjoying life. I made sure that I enjoyed life wherever I went.
I mean, it's a way. I wouldn't say it's a weird thing, but did you experience where as soon as someone found out you were an RMP that they just didn't want anything to do with you?
No, look, I was sort of look. I'm one of these guys. I think quite personal. I'm one of these guys that this sounds really silly, all right? But this is my top. I used to say to all the young lads and lasses, like, and it sounds so silly and immature, but my burial was squared away. You know, when you look at someone and they've got a crap burial on it and you think, oh, toss it straight away. It doesn't matter how good they are. So my kit was squared away. I had good soldiering skills. I mean, spent a lot of time with the infantry embedded, so especially in Afghanistan, etc. So I've squared away and I talked to them in an appropriate manner, not as I'm RMP. It was like, my name's Paddy O'Rourke, this is what I do, but this is who I am, but actually this is what I do as well, and this is the role which I offer you. And just when I'm embedded with people, I'm fully embedded on one of them, and I've never been treated any differently. I've always had really got on well with people all the time, whether that's been on a course or on a tour with them. I know lots of other people have come up against it in a bad way, but I sort of think if you don't have the ability to change somebody's mindset by your behaviour, then your behaviour isn't good enough. So
yeah, it's a good look at good outlook. It really is actually. I mean, the only experience I've really had with the RMPs has been on the other side.
We've all been there, haven't we? Listen, we've all been there, and I always find look, I was well known as RMP with all the battalions. So I was pretty well known, to be fair. Not an easy touch, but a fair touch. So if I was to walk in a block and say, lads, that's it, done. They pretty much comply, and there's a right and there's a wrong way to put somebody in a car or to speak to them, and you've got to understand, if somebody's leathered, you've got to talk to them in a way that they can understand.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you just got to literally launch them on the floor, put them in a set of cuffs and put them in the back, and then you know that they're going to kick off, but actually the next day they're going to be as meek as lambs when they're interviewed. So, listen, I've been arrested more times than most people, so I know what it's like. I
mean, to be fair, the last time it happened to me, I might have been a little drunk at the time. The German GC picked us up, and they didn't want me. They didn't want me. So they called the RMPs. The RMPs that turned up, and they didn't want me. They just sent him home. And it was them two. It was like two Germans and two RMPs arguing over who was going to nick us. And I was somebody fucking arrest me.
You should just speak to them. You should just say, oh, listen, you have no context here. At the minute, you're not understanding it, right? You're going to get arrested. Regardless of what happens to you, your CO is going to get this rush in the morning and get the details via the adjutant. The CO knows your name, not in a good way. Your OC knows your name, not in a good way.
Yeah.
There is nothing good that's going to come out of this. So just get in the taxi and go home. You've had enough. For you, the night's over. But to be fair, I also used to take the battalion orderly sergeant on patrol with me as well. And he had the ability just to point at somebody and say, enough, go home, before we'd have to get involved. So, joint ventures like that always helped.
So what got you into the close protection side of it then?
Look, it was, I suppose, right time, right place. But look, when I did the course, thoroughly enjoyed it. Came straight back as an instructor as well. Um, it's a different kettle of fish. It's, in my view, and I really enjoyed my time there as an instructor. Couldn't affect as many changes as I wanted. It's still quite old school in terms of how it's approached. But look, different weapon system, completely different SOPs, tactics, and it's the only place, I presume, outside of SF, where all support arms, where you can literally go down in the morning, open up an ISO container full of rounds, six bangs, etc., and just get in two armored Range Rovers and just drive around, kicking through windscreens, and firing an unholy amount of rounds. Clean up, clean your kit, and then go the next day. What we're going to do? Let's do the same thing again. Obviously, having had structure, but you don't get to do those things normally in the military. So for
No.
our ability to say, and I don't want to say unrestricted in terms of what you can do, but the facilities we have and the ability to just go in all day, every day, practice with weapon systems without somebody saying you're only getting 150 rounds today, whatever, it's pretty unique. So, that was an advertisement, good marketing tool in itself. And look, all the lads there, look, they're incredibly fit as well. So everyone's got that mind. They're incredibly fit lads, and the sort of physical tests are quite hard. So everyone's got that mindset, which is unique, which not everyone gets to see in the military. Where people get up in the morning and they want to physically be ragged. They want to go and have an incredibly hard session. And it's in their mindset to do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then let's get some fizz in the afternoon after a long day in the ranges, and just eat, sleep, repeat. And it's nice to be around people like that who just have that capacity to want to keep going and keep going and keep learning, and stay really fit. Look, and it's good on tour. Look, again, as a team leader, so when I'm going somewhere, I know that I'm with a 2 or 3 star general and we're tipping up, and I'll try to tip up early if I can. And
Yeah.
and it's how you meet and greet people as well. And sometimes I'd have to say to some officers, captain or below, and I'd have to say, listen, I know how long you've been up and you've been prepping for this, because I've been in the same position myself. But he's not doing this, he's not doing that, and I'm telling you now, he's not interested. He just wants to come in and do the following, and I'm always like the guy breaking the ice and trying to be really polite and say this is generally all he's going to do, all he's interested in. But conscious that they've spent the last 24 hours scrubbing everything and preparing briefs and all the rest of it. But I've had a look at, I've known Kabul at 2-star James Hockenhall, or Jim Hockenhall, who was the first ever 1 and then 2-star INCOR cap badge.
Right.
And then I had a 3-star general called Tim, who's ex-SRR, and just incredible leaders, 2 completely different scopes of leadership and how they went across the business. But I learned a huge amount, which I then transferred to the sort of boardroom setting later on in life.
Yeah.
About how to conduct yourself, how to strategically think. Because look, I left the Sergeant Major, and it's almost seen as an officer sport. Okay, unless you're in SF, something like that, then that's strategic planning. So it's seen as an officer sport, and you're sort of almost degraded in terms of your rank, in terms of what you should be looking at, and how you should be approaching things. But as a TL, I'd be brought in and I'd listen in all the strategic briefs, the strategic planning sessions. So I learned a huge amount from 2, at the time in Kabul, 2 incredibly talented generals, which and I took those lessons forward in life. They're just incredible lessons, which I wouldn't have got access to if it wasn't for them. So incredibly hard tours. So some dodgy times, and you don't necessarily have the support. So also you'd have the comms back to the HQ, but when I'm walking around Kabul in front of the vehicle by myself with a very small set of body armor, just plate carrier, by myself, moving vehicles out the road in the middle of a Kabul high street. But
Feeling
you've got,
vulnerable.
yeah, the boss has to get through. He has to get through. But yeah, I learned a lot, and it's for us. It's the only job as a TL where although you have that support element from headquarters, you are completely alone. So you're the person making the planning. You're the person making all the technical decisions on the ground. His life, everyone else's life is your responsibility, and you don't necessarily get that level of authority and autonomy in a normal working, unit, because you'll always have a subby or someone on. Do you know what I mean? Whereas it's just us on the ground. So it's look, an incredible time. We really enjoyed it.
So, I mean, you say that you mentioned there like the guys you were looking after, the generals. I mean, 99% of squaddies would never even fucking meet a general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, like the first time you were in that situation where you were looking after someone of such high rank, did you feel a bit, scared? I mean, for
No,
want of a different word.
you have a
Or
really,
does that come with the training?
I suppose a bit of both, but you have a really unique relationship. So
Yeah.
prior to going live, NEC will come down for 2-3 weeks, and you're smashing around a bit in ranges on the car, J turns and all the rest of it, getting a bit exciting stuff. He'll come down and witness you in reality what you do, so he gets that comfortable feeling, and then he calls you by your first name or your nickname, even a 3-star. So there'll be certain settings where he'll call me by my rank because I was a sergeant major. You know what I mean? He'll say W2 O'Rourke or whatever. But he always called me Paddy and called all the guys by the first name. And of course, we call him boss or sir. But there's a 3-star, we just called him boss. So you get that unique relationship where, because you're such a close quarter group and you rely on each other 24/7.
Yeah.
They have a real vested interest in your family and your missus and your kids and stuff like that. And so you have a really close working relationship, but make sure you don't blur the line. It's the same. It's the same. Obviously, I was in Beirut looking after the British ambassador there, and again, it's a very similar relationship. They understand who you are and what you do, and that there's a requirement for them to behave not in a lofty way, but in a way that's personable. Otherwise, if things get a bit tetchy, they get tetchy really quick. So, and look, on the SCO tour with an ambassador, it's completely different, and yet the same in terms of that mutual respect and that closeness between us.
So I bet that was a bit different then, ending up in Beirut.
Yeah, look, it's really strange, Beirut. So Beirut is, for me, is like one of the most beautiful cities I've been to. And you'll go down one street and it's high-rise apartment. And I think I was living in apartments about 1.2 million. I was in this incredible 4-bedroom apartment, almost, one below the rooftop. Had my own car. Was always, pistol with me, waiting in the supermarket, just driving around town by myself. And then you turn 2 streets away and you have Hezbollah on that street. It's just a real sort of dichotomy of a city. It's extremely rich, it's extremely poor. You've got your Christians, you've got your Muslims, and you sort of drive through or close by Hezbollah areas and stuff like that. And obviously, I was there. Can't say too much information, but I was there with some high-end meetings with the British ambassador and other parties. When you meet, how should we call them? Actor states, the likes of Iran and people like that, when you meet them and you meet their bodyguards as well, there's that sort of uncomfortable look at each other. But then there's that nod as if to say, I know what you do, and you know what I do, so we'll have a bit of mutual respect.
Yeah, I was going to say there's mutual respect there. Yeah.
And do you know, I've never come across a principal, whether military or as an ambassador, who has shot us in a bad way or just didn't want us there. We've all been just really gracious, good people.
It's a necessary evil, isn't it? They need you there. I mean, it's for their safety. And if they're going to be an ass for you, I mean, if it was me and I was in their situation, I'd be thinking, I need to keep these guys on side.
Yeah, and look, it's a very close line, and you've got to understand the mechanisms of the family. how the family want to operate or don't want to operate. And part of being look, I'd go in the advance party for the ambassador, and he'd visit somewhere in Beirut, and I'd be there in just jeans, set of walking shoes, a t-shirt and a shirt over the top, and obviously I'd be having a discreet carry on me, and I'd have a day set with the rest of the kit in there, but nobody knew who I was, and they'd all be looking at the main party when they arrived with the boss, but they wouldn't know that I'm the advanced party, and just two of us stood there at the door waiting for him. So sometimes part of the job is being there, but just not being seen. But as well, the ambassador or the general, he doesn't want you directly there. He just wants to know in his peripheral vision that you've got eyes on him. And you sort of have to learn that distance with them. You get over a few weeks, you understand, a bit of a glare. I get it, I'm too close. I get it too close. So, yeah, but look at a really good insight. And it was great to work with elements of the Foreign Commonwealth Office and see what other people do in life. And, and I was always one to speak to military. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity. So, to learn more about leadership or to learn more about different roles, qualifications, vocational, academic, I was always sort of thirsty for some knowledge, really. Yeah. And that's probably later on stood me in good stead, because having great connections, the ability to reach out to a 3-star general who go, don't worry, I'll sort you out, and puts me in with some incredible talent guy in the city of London, or vice versa. You know what I mean? It's not somebody, not everyone has that black book they can delve into.
No.
So yeah, very, very lucky, very lucky.
So within that like the close protection world, let's say, within the RMPs, did you ever come across like people who are a bit too gung ho, let's say?
No, look,
they get it, or are they whittled out really early?
To sort of quickly push and touch. I remember again, a cost saving exercise. The British Embassy in Kabul decided to outsource. I think they went to G4S at the time. And I remember looking at these guys, and again, look, they're ex-military, and they came out, and they were the worst. They were the worst campaign poster for a close protection team. And I remember a guy walking up to a meeting point without a pistol, with a thermos mug of coffee in his hand. And then he left, and then the female ambassador came out and sort of looked around, and the boss went, "It's right, he's one of the lads, Paddy, he'll take you back." And obviously we patrol back with her. And so in terms of VODs, I don't think there was any it gets beaten out of the guys very quickly. It's all about actually, look, how you act, how you dress, how you talk, how you ingratiate yourself with people is 90% of the role. That ability to articulate and take people down 3 rungs on the aggressive ladder with how you talk, how you communicate, is vitally important to that role. Most of the aggression really came from external CP teams, civilian CP teams, who were out there wanting, you could tell they're out there wanting some type of bother.
Yeah.
On a little payday for 6 months or something. So that was probably the only challenging part with them.
No, I interviewed a guy last week. Very interesting guy. He was Foreign Legion. Joined Foreign Legion first before he joined the American Airborne. He was like, hang on, you're supposed to do that the other way around. And he ended up working lots of he ended up working for the State Department. He never said too much on who he was working for, but I can imagine it was you know what I mean, without mentioning 3 little letters somewhere. And he mentioned about coming across working with the Brits in places like Iraq and Afghan, and with the contractors and stuff like that. And I know you'll know guys who've done contract work. I know guys who've done contract work out there, and they just didn't get looked after. And you mentioned G4S. I mean, come on. And I know they were out there to earn money, right? Yeah. And you're right. The vetting should have been better for a lot of people who went out there, because there was guys who went out there just for a ruck. They went out there for excitement, and they caused danger for everybody else when they, that attitude type.
it's strange because I know, like as an operator, I know I can get out of a car and look at a team and I can spot an operator. I can spot
Yeah,
that guy or girl who's completely diligent and professional when everyone else is just sat there having a fag on the edge of the bar. They're completely professional. They look the part, they're acting the part. And for me, and I've got lots of good friends out there who work on the circuit and stuff. But when they started eroding the price for teams, and it
yeah,
started getting cheaper and cheaper, and then people will end up just literally moving from one company to another every 30 days, trying to chase some form of contract. And it sort of died its death really in terms of the big money paydays in Iraq and
yeah. Too
Afghan at the
on it.
time.
Yeah,
Um, but then look, it's strange. So I know a lot of people out on the circuit, and they're desperate to get back and get into a corporate gig. But
yeah,
it's and I've had loads send me emails and CV, and it's just incredibly difficult because the reality is, if your CV is just that, what do you offer to a corporate setting? And that's not to say you can't adapt, but on paper, you know, CPCPCP, whether
yeah,
that's Libya or wherever, it's different to come back. And I think part of that as well is that they earn a certain amount of money, relatively tax free, and it's like, am I going to be able to get the same amount back in the UK?
no,
And the chances are no. So yeah, it's so I get the allure of it and why people do it for so long. But look, eventually, look, you're a family man. You need to come back to your family if you
yeah.
can.
I mean,
If you
I
can.
was taught one of the first interviews I did was with a guy who used to be in my old regiment, and he went out to do anti-piracy,
Yeah,
and it was fantastic wages, and it was great. It was a good life and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden it changed. The prices, the contracts were drying up because they found that they could go out elsewhere, source from the Philippines and places like that, and they were getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and it just wasn't worth doing it anymore. Not something about the danger of it and stuff like that. That's
yeah,
always there, but for the wages, it just wasn't worth spending that amount of time away, in danger, and having no backing, and
no,
that's what I found hard. Really, when I was talking to the guy, talking to the guy last week, and I asked him about if they got, went to the State Department, they were out doing the job, and they came, somebody got hurt and stuff like that. How did they get dealt with? And he was like, "No, we got dealt with exactly the same as the American forces, Kazuvar,
yeah,
stuff like that. Basically, you've got a State Department ID, you are treated like, the military."
yeah.
Whether it's Kazuvar, whether it's the health and stuff like that. This was with with the Brits and the private companies that they do. You just got fuck all. You got nothing.
No, and look, I understand that it's almost like an extension for some people. They're leaving, but they don't really want to leave
Mm.
that sort of kinetic lifestyle. Because look, we all love it on tour, and we want to get back in. As soon as we're back, we want to get back out there again. So
Yeah,
I get it. And actually, as the tours mounted over the last 15 years, nobody wanted to be a barrack soldier. People just wanted to deploy. So I completely get the thrill in it. I also think there's an element of where, not for all, but an element of people where they just haven't prepared to get out. And it's
yeah,
almost like a default. I haven't prepared myself vocationally or academically, so it's like, what am I going to do? Oh, I know a route because I've got two mates out there. And if who wants to get shot at? As a when you got kids or whatever, nobody wants to put themselves in that danger unless you have to.
yeah,
When you could be doing something else.
yeah. I mean, you're right. I have seen quite a few people who like when they've left the military, they've just gone straight out to it, and they probably weren't prepared,
Yeah.
or and they had the training, they've done the CP course and stuff like that, and I wouldn't have thought that gives you enough experience to go out and actually
No,
do the
no,
job.
look, I used to get hundreds of emails, generally over 100 emails, CVs a year, asking me, can I help? And I'll offer anyone a hand, whatever I can do. But it was people who'd gone out there, and they'd been out there for a number of years and said, I just need to get back, I need a corporate role. What does such and such pay? they'd have to manage your expectations and say, without these following qualifications, you look at an entry and here's how much it is. And when you look at what they're earning,
Yeah.
it was less than the military wage when they were in. And it's like, quite right, they can't justify leaving the current role. Yeah, I mean, I'm just giving them honestly over 100 a year, just asking about corporate gigs and how they get a job type thing.
Right, so I'd like to now go on to the Queen's Gallantry Medal. If you could.
Yeah, look, I generally, I don't even talk to my missus about it. So if I need a second, you just have to give me a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Look, I'm one of these guys. I never talk about the military. I'm one of these people. I have the ability just to. So look, when I left the military, I said, "Be proud, but actually put it in a box because I'm now in civilian world and nobody cares. Nobody
No, they
cares.
don't. No, they
They
don't.
just they need me to come in and work hard in a specific role, solve
Yeah.
problems, uh, and nobody's and quite right. They pay me to do a role, not to swing dicks type thing. So yeah, and I was I'm acutely aware of that, and I don't have anything in the house. I have one picture in the sort of front living room with Buckingham Palace picture, but that's it. Everything's
Yeah.
just in boxes upstairs.
I was
So
exactly the same when I left. Just to
yeah,
reiterate what you're saying there. I was exactly the same when I left. I didn't have anything. Well, I'll tell you what. If I lean over like that, see that on the wall.
yeah,
Obviously, it's not real. But that there, commendation, some little bits of shit on a shelf.
yeah,
That's all I've got from the military, and I never look back at it and think, it's only since I started doing a podcast that I've actually started thinking of
yeah,
stuff and kind of missing it a little bit. I didn't miss it when I left. I really didn't because I was like, I walked straight into a job, which I
yeah.
was quite happy with, and I didn't like kind of miss it. But literally in the last couple of months, I started like looking back and thinking, yeah, actually,
Yeah, look, and
and start,
honestly, I go through fits and starts where if I haven't, people talk about the black dog and all the rest of it, and I always say
yeah,
to Mrs. Look, the black dog's there everywhere. You come home from work, it's there on the corner of the street.
mm,
You're looking out the window and it's there. I have certain days where I can physically smell, feel, hear the window going to explode, and I don't. I hold my breath for 5 6 seconds and suddenly go. And clearly it hasn't happened, but it's so vivid at the same time.
yeah,
But I always say, like, you can't invite it in your house. That's it. You just need to pat the dog and go and stay there. That's my home. I'm going inside, and and that's only, for me. That doesn't work for everyone. But that's how I deal with it. Acknowledge it's there, but actually, it's not coming in the house. Um, and I suppose that's part of the reason. Really, I was talking about QGM because I only drink like twice a year, and so other years. I think the last time I had a drink was last October. I've just been away for a couple of days with lads, so I tend not to drink because if you drink, you can model, uh,
yeah,
start thinking, and you're connecting with other people, and before you know it, I don't want to say you're on a downward spiral, but actually, in the military, different because you would drink with people, and it was the most incredible sort of bonding and dips and camaraderie. But when you drink it by yourself and you haven't got that, it's life can become more challenging, can't it?
yeah,
Um, so it becomes more challenging. So yeah, look, I was in Kabul as the sergeant major, as the team leader. Had overarching responsibility for two close protection teams, but I personally looked after the 3-star. And we had October 2015. We had a pyramid that went down in the camp. Various reasons. Potentially clipped one of the surveillance balloons. Couldn't land on the airfield due to, I think it was like local Afghans were playing football on there, or sort of local bizarre sort of workforce. And look, it just crashed. It crashed. So the both CP, the other CP team was there first, and we'll start to do casualty evacuation. Managed to get one of the pilots who was out, who was alive, and they did a cracking job. And obviously, my team was there. And look, it's all about the team efforts. I'm very conscious that it's their medal. I just get to wear it once a year, and I don't really even go to Remembrance Sunday. I go up a mountain, whip the medals, wear them, and then I come back down. But Yeah, I think, look, it was a harrowing situation. I spent a long time inside the burnt fuselage, which was still pumping out fuel, um, with myself, an American medic, and an Australian civvy medic, keeping guys alive inside for a very long period of time. But then I managed to take control of the scene, everything from, sending out, you can imagine there's 100 people trying to get involved. And I think the one good thing I did that day was to stand in the fuselage and just say, literally, shut the fuck up and stop what you're doing, regardless of who you are, what rank you are. Go and get me the manifest, go and set up your triage points, go and do your patrols on the rooftops, looking for any stragglers, anyone who's fallen out, etc., etc. So I went through the sort of, I suppose, tactical planning phase of everything that needed to be done and make sure it was done. Uh, I think we had 5 die actually.
Wow.
I think and this is going to sound like a really strange thing to say because lots happened that day. Lots of things. Something I just don't want to talk about, to be fair. But I think the greatest thing I did, and I'm lapsed now, but at the time, I used to sit outside this American church and I used to listen to Christian rock music. And I liked it. The Americans would play it all the time, and it was just like listening to some like rock band, but it also had religious words to it. But they were great. I was massive in the States. I
Yeah.
remember I remember getting this coin by a friend of mine who was a colonel in the American Air Force. Talk about Romans 10 as well. When it, confess with my mouth that Jesus is a Lord, and sorry, and I believe in my heart that He was raised from the dead. So there was a verse on there which you say to become a Christian, almost to say, I accept you in my heart. And I wasn't sure about this. But I look at this guy inside, and I think he was Romanian, and he was a big old lump, and he was literally trying to get like a tennis ball through a square.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get him out, and I was trying my hardest, and whilst trying to keep his airway stable at the same time. And look, I said the words, and I poured them out like knife through butter, and I can't explain it. I'm a fairly strong lad, but it was. People always say, "Oh, you're a strong lad," or one of those strengths that perhaps a mother gets when she pulls a car off somebody. I can't explain it. I said the words and it happened, and that's all I know. When we pulled the final 2 out deceased bodies, we'd been sat in there with them, I think, probably for like an hour and 20 minutes, trying to cut through in a completely dark, um, horribly dark, congested place, completely crumpled. Uh, your skin just burnt with all the fuel and stuff, dripping on you. But look, I managed to pull the final guy, and I remember, just like, I remember kissing him on the cheek and just saying, "Yeah, I've fucking got you, brother. I'm sending you home. Don't worry."
Yeah.
And that for me was like, a huge thing to do. So yeah, look, I was more. I was more concerned with the team, making sure they're all right. But obviously, as Brits, we the smallest element on that camp, and we took charge and dominated and did what Brits are trained to do. The team were absolutely incredible. I was very fortunate. I think General Tim witnessed the whole thing from the sideline, and next thing I just got a notification that I'd been awarded QGM. And I was very honoured because I was the first ever ranker to get the QGM from the cat badge. So, and a female officer had had it before, but nobody from the ranks had ever had it.
Right.
So it was an incredible thing to do, an incredible day at the palace. I can't even overstate just how incredible those people are to make that day special for you. And yeah, look, it sits in a box upstairs behind the bed, and just remains there. And I'm not.
Thank you for telling us that. I mean, it's obviously there that I could see that it's a bit bringing,
It's
dredging up
there's
memories and
there's
stuff.
lots to be said, and I suppose unsaid. I never talk about it. There's lots that day that I can't talk about, but I'm conscious that um, I think it's probably thing that the older you get, the more you become emotional. And I think there's almost like a line where if you spend a long tenure in the military, because I spent like 23 years, so when you spend a long tenure in the military, you get out, you almost have like a trigger mechanism of a certain amount of years before you start becoming emotional about things. And sometimes they can be just little things, but it becomes overwhelming sometimes, you know.
No, I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it just becomes overwhelming, and I get more upset. I think about I don't know, people saying thank you or proud of you or something like that. I think that's more upsetting for me. I don't know why. I just don't like praise. But look, it was a great day. Do you know what? I remember this guy pulled out. The final guy pulled out. He's alive, and he tracked me down 18 months later and sent me an email. And the email said, "Are you, Paddy? I hope you're well. I had a watch that I bought from the PX, and it was like $120. I think somebody cut the watch off. Does anybody still have it? Thanks." And his name, and I was just like, brilliant, brilliant. And we'd literally saved this guy's life. Without us, he was a goner. And he didn't even say thanks. He just said, "Does anyone know where my watch is?" But look, apparently he had no recollection of the day. And I know that the pilot doesn't have any recollection either. Yeah, looked at a difficult situation where the teams were just incredible, and I wish every one of them could have had the medal. But I'm the person who gets to wear it on their behalf, really. Yeah.
You know, that's fucking hell. I'm lost for words, to be honest. Because I said to you before we started recording, I couldn't really, I couldn't find anything on you, basically.
Yeah.
Just looking you up, and so that's the first time I've heard the story of it, and fuck me, yeah. I mean, wow, well done.
It's difficult.
What can I say?
And people always, I suppose, mock the part about the sort of Christian journey of it is, and I always say, I can't explain it more. I'm a big solid guy, keep myself fit and strong, but trying to pull out a guy who's 50 and a half plus stone with all his body armor and all his kit on through a small hole. And, I was spent, literally said the words and pulled them out. And I don't know how, but I managed to. And that still sticks with me, the question of why or how, but.
Did that change your outlook on religion or anything like that?
Look, I'm probably a bit lapsed now. I spend my life whenever I can in the mountains, and I'm a big believer. Like I suppose all military in the sort of, I don't see the healing properties, but how the outdoors can cleanse your soul, and it's like one of the last honest places in the world where no Wi-Fi, no social media. It's just you walking up a hill, looking at what's out there. But did it? I tell you what, it made me. I think out of anything, I hope that the parents of the deceased, knowing that I kissed them as we pulled everyone out on the jeep, and that we carry them with such reverence as if they were a member of our own family. Your sort of hope is that their families, as tragic as it is and still is for them, that they were looked after. Those lads were prayed for and carried like brothers, and they weren't just put on a stretcher in a body bag. They were I loved and respected, and I suppose as a Christian, I think that's what I hope they'll sort of understand, and I think that's quite important for any family member, really.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it's to give someone the reverence of that. I mean, hopefully they'll get some, some, I don't know, I'm lost for words, really. I really am. The story of that. But I mean, if they can get some, condolence from it, then, albeit. So after that, it was returned back to normal life then?
Returned back to normal life and actually signed off, I think, a few months later.
Was that a reason for that? Or?
No, but Paul, I was very aware that. So in my cat badge, there are elements of senior leaders and senior leadership teams who, by virtue of their rank, have never been like embedded for 6 months with an infantry call sign or artillery engineers. They'd not gone out and spent every day, living in the PB, patrolling out. They'd not been on CP tours. So they hadn't lived a life, but they were making decisions around what happens post-tour, and they weren't providing the necessary support and guidance. I remember one tour them saying, "Oh look, you've got 4 weeks leave, but actually we're gonna spend 2 weeks on leave. Then we need you to come back so that people on some rear party can have a bit of leave." And I was like, "Listen, this is bad planning. You haven't given leave over 6 months in rear party." And I just think I could see that the guys that day, look, and a lot of them are previous tours, blown up in CP vehicles, contacts, kinetic, on foot with the infantry, whatever. And like all of them, at some point, they've all gone through a traumatic situation. And I'm acutely aware that what's a small incident for somebody can dramatically affect them, whereas a huge incident for somebody else, they may be going, "That's only a small incident, that doesn't really affect me." But actually, the person to the left could look at somebody in a major traumatic incident and say, "Actually, that doesn't affect me. It's the noise, or it's the smell, or something." Do you know what I mean? We all think about things in different ways. And I just think some of the guys were in a poorly way, and there was no support mechanisms in place. Not even a well done harrowing situation. You did incredibly well as a team, as two teams, and we're incredibly proud of you or whatever. The guys didn't get that. It was almost just like, okay, cheers, clean your weapon. Come in tomorrow morning, we'll have a quick debrief on the tour, in your reports, and then off you go. So, and I remember weeks after that, some of the guys just messaging me saying, I think it's down here. So it was almost like the military had fundamentally changed, and I thought, okay, look, I'm in the scope where I could apply for the commission, etc. But I thought, no, actually, look, I want to get out and see the real world. But I was lucky. I spent a number of years before that preparing to get out. So I went and got a
lot of people don't.
No, I went and got a first class honours degree, got on the vocational qualification, so I was all set to go. And then I pulled the pin, and then really it showed me how the military had got. I remember going to see this guy who was in like a resettlement office, and he said, "I'll just do this online test thing," and it was like 5 minutes. Decided life in 5 minutes. He said, "Like, you're going to be a landscape gardener?" I said, "No, I'm not." And I said, "Listen, I love the outdoors. And actually working with a National Trust or something would be a fantastic rewarding lifetime. I think it's incredible." I said, "But I can't do a test for 5 minutes, and just because I click I like the outdoors, which all military people do, that suddenly your direction for me is to sign up as a landscape gardener or a tree surgeon or something." And I said, "Listen," and that infuriated me of how poor the army was preparing people to get out. And then I asked for early release. Yeah, and I asked for early release, so literally I didn't get any of the briefings either, and it was just go and check JSP, whatever it was, to get out. Speak to Chief Clerk about what you need to do from an admin point of view, and that was it. And I was just like, look, and I thought I hadn't got a job yet, but I thought, actually, look, I'm in a really good, technically on paper, quite a good position here because of academic qualifications and stuff. But what does a guy do? He's left it too late, or he's not academically driven. He really struggles. And I struggled. Don't get me wrong. And I was, every night on tour trying to complete essays and stuff. But actually, the army was just almost preparing people for abject failure on the outside, and just even the very basics around. Because look, in the military we take everything for granted, don't we? So everything's done for us. We're a bit like Premiership footballers. Somebody's doing all your admin for you, and if you've not got your own house, you've never even paid a mortgage before, or you don't understand tax, VAT, whatever. And so it's such a huge step for people to get out, and I genuinely think that the army does not prepare you even 3% off what it's going to be like on the outside. I don't know about other regiments. I just know I went to this sort of garrison.
You know what? I've done 60 interviews now, and I'd probably say 75 to 80% of them. I mean, that's just rounding numbers up, but have said or had the same sentiments that the army, the military as a whole, not just the army, the Navy and the Air Force, does not prepare you to leave. It kind of thinks it does, but it doesn't. The resettlement packages are dog shit. They really are.
And look,
And it's no fault of the pipe. I wouldn't say. Well, I would try and say it's no fault of the people who were giving these lessons, giving these lectures and stuff like that. But then again, they're just doing. Most of them are retired squaddies.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've not lived or operated in the real world. They've just gone like an FTRS, and then they've become a civvy, and they're working as in a training, resettlement workshop or unit or something like that, and they've got like almost no real world experience. And I sort of think, look, why haven't you got people in from a private business, a corporation, whatever, to come in and give a reality brief on this is life? And this is the pitfalls, the challenges, the rewards, but actually here's the process of how I did it to get a reasonable job to support the family. Look, I just found the journey incredibly frustrating and difficult, but at the same time, I'd spoken to enough people 4 or 5 years before that, education centre and stuff, who just said, actually, let's get you on the right journey. And I think you're also. So when I was talking before about strategic and operational planning and stuff, and it's almost like an officer sport, I think you are pushed down in terms of your life aspirations when you're a ranker, regardless if you're a lance jack to a lance bombardier, whatever, up to an RSM. Your level of expectations in life are low. Your expectations in terms of earnings are quite low, and 90% of people I speak to at the time were going, as long as I get out and I can earn the same sort of wages I'm earning now, I'll be happy. And I'm sat thinking, look, there's a big world out there, and there's lots of opportunities, and you've got to think laterally and think of all different things. But yeah, look, I was really lucky. So I got out. I didn't even have a leave and do. I was doing some NavX on the Friday, Thursday night to Friday morning, teaching, and I just literally walked out of the business. Didn't even say hello to anyone. So walked out of the business. The army just left the camp. That was it. Done. I'd sort of mentally prepared myself that was it. Don't hang about. Don't hang on. Nobody's bothered. You're out the door. And then I started.
For me.
Yeah, and started up a new job on the Monday. So look, I was very fortunate. I became executive director of risk and resilience at a FTSE 100 company, making about at the time like 2.4, 2.6 billion a year revenue. So I was a senior position in a very big business, and I was able to transfer a lot of the skills from working with the FCO, working with generals and stuff, and actually bring that over to the sort of boardroom and senior exco environment. And I quickly found that, look, having the experience, having the academia was great, but actually what they wanted, what they loved about ex-military is the fact that our can-do positive attitude and that we're great at problem solving. And we take it personally. We don't say, "Oh, I'll have a meeting for a meeting." It's like, no, let's get to the root of the problem. Look, I stayed here for 7.5 years. Had a fantastic time with the executive team. Then became a consultant for pretty much a year. So I've worked with some major European brands around risk management, technical security, loss prevention across 700 stores across the UK, stuff like that. And then I became a director of risk and compliance for a very large tech company. So I was fortunate that there is an element, there's very much an element of fortune and good luck involved.
It doesn't sound it. It doesn't sound like you've had good luck. It sounds like you've worked hard for it.
Yeah, look, but there has to be an element of luck, I suppose, in life. But I was also, I remember, and it's very classy to talk about money, but I remember leaving the military and I got this job, and it was like, I want early release to get this job. And I remember say, okay, look, start wage is 65k plus X amount of bonus a year. And I went, okay, great, this is fantastic. And I remember chatting to the CO at the time and thinking, God, I earn more than the CO. This is good.
Yeah.
But then I quickly found actually, look, about opportunities in life. And I thought, no, I want to earn treble this in 5 years or 7 years, etc. And it was like I was on that pathway of saying, actually, look, you've got to enjoy life and have time at home with a family or sports, recreation, whatever you want to do. But you've almost spent so long being suppressed in terms of what you can't do. Well, actually, in civilian world, in a good business, the opportunities are so present and available for you. You know, I was chatting to a guy the other day who's he's ex-infantry, ex-full screw, works at Amazon on. I won't tell you what he does, but he works at Amazon. You know, there's lads. You know, I was on such a great chat with him. He's earning 200k plus a year, and you know, and he was just saying how when he got out, almost like the military wanted to lead him down a road and say, actually, this is what this is all you can do. And he was saying, no, I want to do more. But look, I'm very conscious that when you get out, if you spent a long time in the military, you almost don't want to burn the candle at both ends because the high pay role requires you to do emails all night, teams, work weekends and stuff. But actually, you know, you're either in a position where you want to be home at 5, phone off, laptop off, spend quality time with the family, you know, nice holiday every year or, you know, twice a year. And that's fantastic. I'm quite enviable of people like that. But I'm also conscious that I think when I left, I thought, God, I may only have 15 years left working in a corporate gig where I've still got a bit of passion left in my bones. So actually, what do I do? Looking at, I've brought in a lot of ex-military who are absolutely flying in what they do. And there's always the argument when you're getting out of what's more important, academics or experience. But the reality is you kind of need both to a certain degree. But yeah, look, fortunate about, I've done me wrong, I've grafted hard, but whenever I speak to ex-military or people say, look, what do I do when I get out? I just say, shoot for the stars. Just go for it. And you know, there's opportunities out there, and if you're a good person and you come across well, and you've got a little bit of academics, doesn't need to be a first class degree or anything like that. You know, you might just have a couple of vocational qualifications, but actually, once you're in that door, the hardest thing is to get in the door.
Yeah.
But once you're in there, show your worth, and you'll smash up the ranks. And I see it all the time with people.
I know what you're saying about, you know, the army. When you're leaving, the army just like kind of ignores you almost. I mean, my last few years in the army was working with the LCMO for the regiment. Is his brew pitch more or less? You know, and we dealt with the resettlement for people and stuff like that, and also retention. Retention's really hard, and it. I mean, it'll be harder now, but it was hard then. You know, we used to try and give them lectures on saying, you know, free dental care, free medical, blah blah blah. When you go out to Civvy Street, blah blah. But if someone's determined to get out, they want to get out.
Yeah.
All right, fine, bye. But let's help them out as well. You know, let's push them out.
I just
you said there, oh, you just left. You know, you just walked out. That was kind of, I got sent home for the last few months. And the day I left, the day I drove out of camp, I just thought, fucking hell, is that it?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing.
Look, it really kind of affected my life because I know I've gone and given a brief before, like I think a room full of about 200 people, specifically talking about getting out, challenges, pitfalls, successes, you know, and there's no one size fits all framework, but here's how I prepared. But then I meet so many people who've got out, either fallen into a job they haven't liked or whatever circumstances, and they're just unhappy, you know, unhappy. Yeah. And I honestly, the majority of veterans I speak to or come into contact with or mates of mine are fundamentally unhappy people. And that's not because of their jobs. It's just you don't realise how hard life was in the military or trauma or whatever, and then you're out of that, and then you don't really think about it, but little things come back in your mind, and you don't have that support network there, and blokes don't like to talk, and bunch of our age and all the rest of it, and and I always think about it, it's like a flat line. I'm never like mega happy unless I'm in the mountains or this is my dog, but I'm never really unhappy. I'm just just like flat line, and that's again, I don't think when people are getting out, or whether they've done 4 years or 24 years, whatever, 30 years, I don't think the army does enough to talk to people about you are going to experience this, but it's normal. It's normal. It's not normal to feel it every day for weeks at a time, but a couple of days is normal. That's just life. But I don't think they do enough, not even on the job front, but just around the emotional support to explain to people about how they're going to be feeling at certain times of the year. The lead up to Sunday. There won't be a single veteran who's not watching the ceremony at the elbow the night before, who's not sitting there, buddy, trying to
I
hold
know
it
what you're saying.
in. Yeah,
Been
yeah,
there, done that
yeah.
every
And
year.
yeah, it's
Sit there with a bottle of wine.
yeah. I just think life's very, very difficult for people, and part of that is we have to take accountability, but part in the mainstream really is the military, and the old saying's correct that you are just a number. Once you're out, you're out. But
I
I
mean, I
just
think
wish,
it's getting better at the moment, and
yeah,
more people are starting to talk. I didn't realise how much help there is out there.
yeah,
But you've got to, it doesn't come to you. You've got to go to it.
yeah,
I'm on that journey now, and if it wasn't for me realising I had an issue, and I didn't think I did, and I still don't think I do, but
yeah,
apparently I do. And going to the doctor and saying to the doctor, well, I'll put it this way, and I've said it before in previous podcasts. I knew I had a kind of issue, and I didn't know what it was. I was having anxiety attacks and stuff like that, and partly caused by relationship stuff that's happened, but partly caused by doing the podcasts because
yeah,
it's dredged up things from other people.
yeah,
I've listened to some, I wouldn't say horrific or harrowing stories, but I've listened to people's stories, and I have to like take that in and decompress and stuff like that, and I wasn't doing that. Is having the bollocks to ask for help. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And some people don't, and they can't. I asked the nurse how we'll go about it, and she just went, "Oh, you just fill a form in online." And I thought, for fuck's sake, and that was harsh.
yeah,
And but I did. I went and done that, and then the next thing I know, I was got an appointment with the doctor. The doctor said, "What's up?" I said, "I fucking don't know," and I couldn't speak. And then all of a sudden, it all come out and stuff like that. And I was like, because of the up courage thing, and I would recommend anyone who's listening to this who thinks they need help is to go and see a doctor or get in touch with one of the veterans associations,
yeah,
Walk with the Wounded. Everyone's got, a lot of them have closed down due to lack of funding and the lack of, sadly, the lack of interest from the general public because Afghan's over, Iraq's over. We're not in the news every day and stuff like that. Go and see. You've got to seek help, even if you. The way they've explained it to me is I feel okay, right?
yeah,
And I keep saying to them, I'm fine, and they've said, no, you are doing it at the right time before it becomes a major issue. So you've not left it too late. And seeking advice early, if you feel, they'll tell you if they can help you or not. That's
yeah.
what they're there for. And the up courage stuff actually works. It comes in quite quick.
So I always jump on the wordings when I speak to people. So it's like when you say, "How are you, mate?" and they go, "Yeah, I'm okay," or "Not bad,
Yeah,
thanks." Even in the workplace environment, I say, well, "What do you mean you're just okay?" Because okay is not good, and not bad doesn't mean
yeah,
good. It just means, do you know what I mean? I'm not bad, and sometimes I think
yeah,
it's just one of those sayings we say. Everyone says those things, but then yeah, look, seeking help. Seeking help is is much more easier now than it's ever been,
mm,
and the stigma is now more reduced than it's ever been.
yeah,
And obviously, look, the reality is, if you don't, it's a quick spiral. And
yeah,
you don't know where you're going to be in 6 months or 12 months, and it affects relationships and job, absolutely everything. Um, and sometimes some people will have an hour chat and walk out and go, wow, okay. It's almost like that's all they needed. They needed an hour of constant, just one-way send to get it out. Other people will need 3 months of it over a modular course, whatever. But sometimes you just need to offload, don't we?
Yeah, exactly that.
But I always stay clear of veteran groups as well. I'm just not one of these people, and it's for no other reason than, for me, if I listen to other veterans, I almost feel like I'm taking on, like you said before, I almost feel like I'm taking on their emotions.
Yeah.
And then
it does happen.
Yeah, and then I really deep rooted thinking about them and problems, and it's not trying to be a bad human, but it's like I can't cope with that. I can't. Once I
You've got to look after yourself first.
Yeah, once you open that tin of Quality Street even slightly, that's it. It's gone.
Yeah, you've got to look after yourself first.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I mean, the way it was explained to me was one of the guys I was interviewing. He suffered PTSD when he got out, and then he basically said to me, "Right, who do you talk to?" And I said, "What are you on about?" He says, "Well, you listen to everyone's story. Who have you got to sound off to? Because you can't keep them in." And I was like, "I'd never thought of it that way." And there has been a few there, but it took me a while afterwards to like calm down and Jesus Christ, that was rough type of thing. But it's.
But I find people. Do you know what? If you're brave enough to speak up, people really accommodate. So it's like I can't have anything near my left side. I can't have a surprise. If you're on the left side, you need to say, "Shane, panic. I'm just going to read forward. I'm just going to grab this." Yeah, no worries. If I'm surprised, I get this horrible feeling in the depth of my stomach. A bit like you hear an ID blast half a K away, and something in your stomach just goes, "Oh, somebody's had it." So I remember suffering for years, going to the dentist. A half an hour would take me an hour and a half, and I get visibly quite upset in there. And then I just opened up to the dentist. I said, "Actually, look, this is what's happened. This is what I need you to do. I need you to have it on my right, or you're on my left. I need you to talk through it before you do it." And suddenly an hour and a half became half an hour again. My worst fear was that, I suppose, as ex-military, that people were going to look at you differently or weaker or feel sorry for you. And that feel sorry look, when people look at you going, "Oh, okay," it is worse than somebody hitting you in the face with a spade. That condescending little, "Oh, okay, you're all right." And actually, people just really accommodate and say, "Yeah, don't worry about it." I remember the same dentist saying, "Look, we've got an ambulance person here who's in ambulance crash with a patient in the back, and blah blah blah, and actually we have to set the whole room up differently for them because they can't have anything come from the back forward." So sometimes I think actually if you're brave enough to say something, you'd be overwhelmed at how eager people are to accommodate you and help you and think no differently of you as well. It's just in your mindset. You think people are going to think about you, but they're not. There's people fundamentally people just want to help people, don't they?
I think weirdly, one of the things that's helped people recently is social media.
Yeah,
it's become more and more. There's more and more people on social media, and like fucking TikTok for all things, where people are opening up about it and talking to it, and people are watching these, and whether they react to whether they leave a comment or they like it or whatever, but they're watching these little videos and people almost bearing the soul are coming out and saying, it's you need to talk. It's not embarrassing. It's not how we have always felt about it. Where like you said, in ourselves we think it's weak.
yeah.
It's not just a military thing. I think that's like a man thing. And that's the way our parents brought us up.
It's almost like a double-edged sword, because I speak to people all the time, and I say, if you're applying for a role at a company and it's got a good talent or recruitment team, they are going to scour LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever they can do to see what sort of person you are.
Yeah.
And a good talent team, and if you've got some fucking civvies or talking about immigrants and blah 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 blah, they're like red flag. This person's not coming into business. So always say you've got to be careful about what you say out there. But yeah, look, I've probably seen an explosion on TikTok really of not just veterans but men's health, and the power of good that it can do. I'm just conscious that I don't think even the last couple of years it's even made. I don't think it's changed the amount of people, men, every day who try to commit suicide or
No.
commit
I mean,
suicide.
I don't know the figures, but
Yeah,
I don't really want to look into it. To be
no,
honest, like,
but it helps. Look, it's like those figures, isn't it? When you look at mental campaign, you look at how many people died in Afghan, but you can't find figures of how many injured servicemen and women there were,
yeah,
and how many have had traumatic sort of mental health conditions because of that. And that information is not there, but I'm sure it'd be startling,
yeah,
and you can go look at those, God, I don't know the latest update, but I know I watched the news earlier on. It was about those two young kiddies who died in Southport, and I don't know any of the updates, but you look at those first responders and the police and ambulance crew there, and having to go through that trauma. Obviously, your first thought clearly with the families, um, but then they'll leave the ambulance service or the police in 8 months' time, 12 months' time, and they'll go through the same
yeah,
thing. Um, yeah, so look, my advice to anyone would be, it's not even bravery. Do you know what? Find somebody who you trust, who you can have a chat with and have a
yeah.
coffee or a beer with, and just chat shit, get it off your chest.
It
Um,
helps. It does help. There's no two
yeah,
ways about it. It does help.
but there's also
So
the
for
aspect, isn't it,
fans,
to say it's normal. It's normal to sometimes just feel like crap. It's normal,
yeah, of course it
but
is.
just not every day.
Everyone has down days and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Anniversaries in the year and
yeah,
things
yeah,
that you remember that one, and it happens to everyone.
yeah,
And you're right. It's not just veterans. You've got the police, the fire service, the
no,
ambulance. I mean, fucking shit they go through.
yeah,
You know, it's it's it's. I would say it's probably worse than most of the stuff that veterans have seen and stuff like that. And because these guys are seeing this every day as
yeah,
well. And
yeah.
it's the right mentality and stuff like that. So moving away from that, what's your plans for the future then?
Um, Look, I'll continue with this business. I've, I've got my own consultancy business as well in the background, but I'm probably going to turn that off and obviously be solely focused on this corporate role. Um, for the future, look, I'm 49 next week. I'm hoping to retire at 53. Um, and look, the whole of my future is we'll just live in a Lake District and walk up the fells with my dog. And I'm Yeah, look, I'm just acutely aware that if you're fortunate enough to be in that position, it's the greatest position in the world, and not everyone is, and I'm very much aware of that. But look, being healthy, being passionate about a role, and if I no longer have that passion when I wake up, then it's either time to go or find a different role. Um, but I don't want to be working for a long period.
Yeah,
I want to just relax and do nothing. Um, I'd probably do some, like devote my time. I'd love to just be full time volunteer with my rescue, but Patterdale, something like that. And I think that's the life for me. It's almost like I've had two hard careers,
yeah.
um, and my wife's 8 years younger and got a great job, so I'll just make her work for another 8 years. keep the mortgage
Why not?
paid. Yeah.
Right,
Um,
I think we've come to the end of it now. Then it's been an hour and a half. As we normally try and end it around this time. Thanks for coming on and
my
telling your
pleasure, mate.
story. It's been fucking interesting. I didn't know nothing about CP teams and stuff like that. Nothing at all.
Uh,
Telling the story of what happened for yourself, and I appreciate that you have tried to share that to the team as well. Like you said, it was the team that earned you that medal, type of thing. That's an amazing thing to try and give back as well. Thanks for coming on.
no, it's my pleasure, mate.
All right, I'll just end the recording now then. 2
Okay.
seconds. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great, because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.